I am an ordinary doctor, and she is the only daughter of a pharmaceutical group. A medical aid mission brought us together in love. The day my foster father was diagnosed with late-stage pancreatic cancer, I called her private number for the first time. Sorry, Ms. Wen is currently discussing new drug imports with foreign experts. Her special assistant Jiang Huai answered the phone, his voice cold. If it's not urgent, I suggest you contact her another day. I stood in the hallway holding the test results, looking at my foster father's CT, skin showing a field of white. With just her approval, the latest targeted drug could be immediately available. But from then on, I could never get through to her phone again. The next day, she saw me waiting at the company entrance and slightly frowned. Why aren't you at work? What are you doing here? I looked up, forcing a bitter smile. Wenlan, let's break up. Wenlan, have you really thought this through? I looked at the girl in front of me. Someone like me who has just experienced a failed relationship might disappoint you. Wenlan picked up her coffee, her gaze gentle yet determined. Life is like a diagnostic report, with both good and bad, all part of the experience. Looking at the ripples slowly spreading in my cup, I felt a long-lost warmth. Once I finish the handover here, we'll go get our marriage certificate. She nodded gently, watching me as I left the cafe. I knew she understood me, and that I still had one last thing to complete at this moment. Walking along the hospital corridor, raindrops tapped against the window frames, making delicate sounds. This was the 4th day since my adoptive father had passed away, and I was still busy handling his affairs. The entire hospital knew that the old director who always quietly cared for patients was gone, but only Wenlan knew nothing about it. She always lived in her own world. For her, the development progress of a new drug was much more important than my life. From the day she parachuted into the top management of the group, the distance between us had been constantly growing. Her schedule was always packed. Expert consultations, board meetings, international conferences. And the little details of my life as a small doctor were never worth her pausing for. She will never understand how much I wish she could have reached out during that moment when the ICU equipment emitted sharp alarms. As I put down the medical chart, my phone suddenly lit up. CEO Wen is attending a charity banquet tonight. Go to her apartment immediately and bring over that custom sapphire necklace. Jiang Huai's voice remained condescending, as always. Over these years, whenever there was any intimate moment between Wenlan and me, he always had to interfere. Even the birthday gifts I gave her had to be reviewed by him first, and he would occasionally belittle my taste in front of her. Whenever I expressed dissatisfaction, Wenlan would look at me with contempt. He's helping you improve your aesthetic sense. Why are you so ungrateful? Once, I would have swallowed my pride for one of her smiles. But now, these words only seem ironic to me. As a doctor who worked my way up from a small-town hospital to the provincial city, I naturally couldn't compare to his refined lifestyle. He had perfect taste and could create the most luxurious life for Wenlan. And I, even giving my all, am just an ordinary person. Listening to his condescending tone on the phone, I suddenly laughed. Just go get the necklace yourself. After all, you're the one who truly understands her wishes. On the other end of the phone, Jiang Huai chuckled softly. Fine, I'll pass along your exact words to Director Wen. The call-ended tone made me clench my fist. This feeling of powerlessness, I've grown accustomed to it. I'm supposed to be Wenlan's boyfriend, yet everything about her has to go through Jiang Huai, as if I'm just an optional decoration. I looked up at the increasingly gloomy sky and walked quickly toward the parking lot. 3 hours later, I stood soaking wet at the apartment entrance. Water dripped from my white coat, forming a puddle on the floor. By now I had calmed down, all the resentment and anger dissipating with the rain. After changing out of my drenched clothes, I was about to go to the bathroom, but the door opened from the inside. Wenlan walked out wrapped in a silk bathrobe, water still dripping from her hair tips, her face showing a lazy flush. The look in her eyes when she gazed at me was still so captivating. In a daze, I recalled the flutter in my heart when I first met her. Back then, she would still give me an admiring smile after a successful surgery. But the next moment, Jiang Huai walked out of the bathroom. Ms. Wen, I brought you a hairdryer. Don't catch a cold. His gentle tone was grating to my ears. My gaze fell on his feet. Those hand-stitched lambskin slippers were the first birthday gift Wenlan had given me. Though not expensive, they carried the warmth of our early days together. Now they were under his feet, soaked with water. I laughed coldly. Seems I've interrupted your private world. Sorry. As I turned to leave, Wenlan grabbed me. Qin Yin, what nonsense are you talking? It's because you didn't bring an umbrella that we got caught in the rain. What's wrong with letting Jiang Huai take a shower? I didn't want to get entangled with her anymore. I came back today just to tell her my decision to break up and pack my belongings to leave this place. But their intimate gestures, while our relationship had not yet ended, were trampling on my last shred of dignity. Then the kiss mark on your collar, was that also caused by the rain? I was too familiar with every inch of her skin. Those ambiguous red marks didn't deceive my eyes. Wenlan's expression instantly froze. Jiang Huai, however, spoke calmly. Dr. Qin, I understand you're prejudiced against me, but you shouldn't hurt Director Wen in this way. That's just her allergic reaction to a certain medication. As a doctor, you should know this clearly. He was always like this, using professional terminology to extricate himself completely. Wenlan immediately put on a stern face. Qin Yan, you must apologize to Jiang Huai. Without evidence, what right do you have to slander us? My tightly clenched knuckles turned white as I spoke word by word. I will not apologize. I returned to my office, slamming the door shut. Throughout the entire evening, Wenlan didn't come back to do rounds, clearly punishing me with her usual cold treatment. Staring at the empty specialist chair in the consultation room, I shook my head with a bitter smile. This was hardly a relationship between lovers. It was clearly more like a dialogue between ruler and subject. For 5 years, whenever I expressed dissatisfaction, she would use this method to put me in my place. Every time I offered even slight objection, she would use her authority to suppress me. And I always chose to bow my head in the face of her fury. This time she was still waiting for me to admit my mistake, but she was destined to be disappointed. In just 4 days, I would be transferring from this hospital, and during this brief time, I didn't want to put on a false front anymore. The next morning, there was a new imported ventilator at the nurse's station. Wenlan stood nearby, unusually softening her tone. This is the latest model. I know you often complain about insufficient emergency equipment, so I had one ordered. Take a look, is it suitable? This was her usual method of reconciliation, and also her final ultimatum. In the past, whenever she showed even a hint of goodwill, I would immediately put down the medical records in my hand and carefully examine every item she brought. Even if those devices weren't what my department needed most urgently. I didn't even look at the machine, just said to the nurse on duty, please contact the equipment department. Temperature Lawn stopped the nurse and forcefully stuffed the operation manual into my hand. Isn't it just asking you to apologize? When did you become so stubborn? Jiang Huai is my most trusted assistant. If he leaves because of your unreasonable behavior, who will bear the loss to the entire hospital? Looking at her angry eyes, I felt a dull pain in my heart. We met in medical school. Back then, she was the chairman's daughter, while I was just a resident doctor working my way through school. She took the initiative to sit in on my teaching rounds, and later recommended me to work at this hospital. During my early days at the hospital, she took great care of me. She often brought hot soup when I was on an IGHD shift, and insisted on driving me home when it rained. That year on Doctor's Day, I saved 3 months' salary to buy a ring and confessed my feelings to her in the on-call room. She accepted without hesitation. Since then, we began living together. Life was simple yet warm, and I thought this happiness would continue until we walked down the aisle. Until Jiang Huai returned from his Harvard fellowship, everything changed. She seemed like a different person, her attitude toward me shifting from gentle to harsh. I pushed away the operation manual in disgust. Since Jiang Huai is so important, why don't you two be together? His resume is so perfect, he'll surely give you the best life. Wenlan's face instantly darkened. I knew she was about to scold me again, so I spoke first. Wenlan, let's break up. Before I finished speaking, Jiang Huai pushed open the door. Director Wen, the board meeting is about to begin. We should go. Wenlan followed him without looking back, as if I were merely air. Just like countless times before, my existence was easily erased by her. After they left, I took my resignation letter and walked toward the medical department. The department head approached me, hesitating. Qin Yan, I'm truly sorry. I had already negotiated with the hospital administration. The deputy director position was meant to be yours, but upper management said your surgery volume and research paper metrics didn't meet the standards. I calmly accepted this news. Over the past 5 years, I had grown accustomed to such outcomes. From the first day I entered this hospital, I had been desperately trying to prove myself. I pursued excellence in every surgery and carefully studied each case. Wenlan had promised that once I became deputy director, she would agree to marry me. For this promise, I gave up all my vacations and voluntarily took on complex cases. My name was always on the ICU duty roster. Each quarter, I ranked first in the department for surgery volume and successful rescue rate. But when the annual assessment came, it was always the same verdict. Doesn't meet standards. I had questioned this outcome before, asking Wenlan to investigate the reasons. She looked at me coldly. Qin Yan, don't blame the system because of your own inadequacy. I am your wife, and I shouldn't open special channels for you. At that moment, I was disappointed in her for the first time. I wasn't just working hard for the sake of marriage, but also hoped to make achievements in the field of medicine. But now it seems all these expectations were in vain. Suppressing the bitterness in my heart, I handed my resignation letter to the director. It's okay, I've already decided to leave. The director sighed and took the document. That's fine. With your skills, you'll have better development opportunities at other hospitals. I thanked him and turned to walk toward the personnel department. As I passed through the inpatient department corridor, I heard conversations coming from the changing room. Dr. Chin failed the evaluation again. It looks like he's really leaving. Assistant Jiang, I heard that Director Wen once promised to marry him if he could be promoted to deputy director. Is that true? Jiang Huai let out a cold laugh. Him? A doctor from a township hospital? And he wants to sit in that position? As long as I'm still Ms. Wen's assistant, someone without connections like him has no chance of climbing up. For the next evaluation, continue to do as I said. Reject all his surgical data for review. I want to see how long he can hold on. A surge of anger rushed to my head. The hospital had research funding and advanced study opportunities every year, but my name was never on the list. No wonder everyone in the hospital avoided me, and no one was willing to help me contact specialists when my adoptive father was critically ill. It turned out that Jiang Huai was manipulating everything behind the scenes. I could no longer suppress my anger and burst into the changing room. Jiang Huai, so it was you behind all this all these years. I never intended to be with Wenlan forever. If you truly like her, I can step aside anytime. But why do you have to suppress my medical skills at every turn? Years of pent-up anger exploded as I swung a punch toward his face. Jiang Huai staggered backward, panic flashing in his eyes. He suddenly looked toward the doorway and immediately put on a pitiful expression. Dr. Chin, I'm just following the rules and regulations. I never intended to harm your relationship with Director Wen. Please stop hitting me. His sudden display of weakness caught me off guard. The next second, Wenlan's palm landed heavily on my face. Qin Yan, this is a hospital, not a place for your outbursts. Apologize to Jiang Huai immediately. Wenlan quickly helped Jiang Huai up, her face full of concern. Your face is swollen. I'll have someone take you for an examination right away. Jiang Huai looked at her pitifully. Director Wen, I'm sorry. Dr. Chin's evaluation data indeed falls short. I was simply following protocol by reminding him that he still needs to publish a paper in a core journal, but he accused me of deliberately making things difficult for him and became violent. He takes advantage of his position as a key physician to frequently occupy other doctors' operating tables. I couldn't stand by and decided to help other doctors reclaim their rightful spots, but I never expected he would hold such a grudge. He's also been spreading rumors everywhere that he's your fiancé, attempting to influence the evaluation results. When I gently reminded him about this, he hit me. After hearing these words, Lan Wen's eyes turned cold as a surgical knife. Qin Yan, you think I would marry you if you beck? Aim an associate director. Look at your background. How dare you think you're worthy to discuss marriage with our hospital's heir? I only kept you back then because your medical skills were decent, and I've given you plenty of opportunities over the years. I never expected that not only would you be ungrateful, but you'd harbor such dirty thoughts. Now get on your knees and apologize to Jiang Huai immediately. Then pack your things and get out of the hospital. Otherwise, I'll make sure you can't work anywhere in the national medical system. I was amused by her words. So in her eyes, I was just a substitute when Jiang Huai wasn't around. Now that her moonlight has returned, she couldn't wait to kick me aside. I took a deep breath and threw my resignation letter on the ground. No need for Director Wen to trouble herself. I've prepared this long ago. Previously, no matter how much wrongdoing I suffered, I would never easily give up this job. So when Lan Wen saw the resignation letter, her expression visibly changed. Just as she was about to say something, Jiang Huai suddenly covered his face and groaned. Director Wen, I feel very dizzy. Could I get a CT scan first? When Lan's attention was immediately drawn to him. I couldn't be bothered to watch this duet performance any longer, so I turned and left. These 5 years of sincere feelings were just wasted. Back in the office, I began to pack my things. All my belongings fit into my bag, occupying just a tiny corner. All the medical equipment we had used together was thrown into the medical waste bin. Anyway, she doesn't care. She can easily buy better ones. Before leaving, I saw the stethoscope she had carelessly tossed on the desk. That was the only heirloom my mother left me, accompanying me all the way from medical school. I gave it to Wenlan because I thought she was the person I would spend my life with. When she accepted it, she solemnly promised to cherish it. But the very next day, I found it thrown in a pile of miscellaneous items. Thinking about it now, she never truly valued my feelings. After packing up, I picked up my bag and walked out of the office, coincidentally running into Wenlan, who was returning. She saw me and frowned with disgust. What are you still making a fuss about? You hit someone, and now you're trying to disappear? Don't think I'll tolerate you this time like I did before. I let out a cold laugh. So all these days I've been running around for my adoptive father. In her eyes, I was just making trouble. No wonder she ignored me completely, and even mocked me for being a pitiful creature with nowhere to go. I looked at her calmly. From today onward, we're done. As I finished speaking and turned to leave, Wenlan shouted shrilly. Qin Yan, you'd better think this through. If you dare walk out this door today, don't ever think about coming back. That's my bot. Oh, I'm lying. I didn't look back. Don't worry, I won't set foot in this place ever again in this lifetime. Rushing from the hospital to the high-speed railway station, I didn't check my phone the entire way. It wasn't until I sat down in the train compartment that I discovered my messages had exploded. They were all private messages from hospital colleagues. Dr. Chin, so you really are Director Wen's boyfriend? I'm sorry, Dr. Chin. I misunderstood you about the surgery table incident earlier. Hope you don't mind. Apparently, the argument in the changing room that day was overheard by an intern, and now it has spread throughout the entire hospital. While scrolling through the messages, Wenlan called. Qin Yan, I don't care if you're trying to get revenge or create publicity, but clarify immediately in the hospital group chat that I could never possibly have someone like you as a boyfriend. From the other end of the phone, I faintly heard Jiang Huai's voice. Director Wen, he's deliberately damaging the hospital's reputation. I hung up directly. If I hadn't been using this number for so many years, I would have canceled it immediately. As the high-speed train started moving, I turned off my phone and closed my eyes to rest. When I opened my eyes again, I was in another city. Yi Shun was waiting for me at the exit, her cheeks reddened by the cold wind, yet still smiling brightly as she waved. Finally caught you. I was afraid of missing your train, so I came 2 hours early. Seeing her trembling from the cold, I said with concern, It's so cold. Why didn't you wait inside? Don't worry, since I've chosen you, I definitely won't change my mind. Her eyes sparkled with shyness. I held her hand and took a photo. There are rumors at the hospital about me and Wenlan, and she asked me to clarify. I want to post a photo of us together so everyone knows that you are my wife. Yishin looked at me tenderly. Why don't we also post our wedding invitation? That would be more convincing. She took my phone and easily joined the hospital group chat. Hello everyone, I am Qin Yan's wife. I heard there have been some misunderstandings recently, so I'd like to clarify the situation. She sent the wedding invitation to the group. Dr. Qin resigned because we decided to develop our careers in a new city. We will be holding our wedding ceremony soon, and all colleagues are welcome to attend. The previously lively group chat suddenly went quiet. After quite a while, someone cautiously asked, Are you really Dr. Qin's wife? Yishin directly uploaded a photo of our marriage certificate. No one would get legally married just to clarify rumors. Qin Yan and I are truly in love, and now we want to change our environment to continue our medical careers while starting a new life. We hope everyone will give us their blessing. After sending the message, she helped me exit all the hospital group chats. The car stopped beneath her parents' apartment building, where the elderly couple was already waiting. Ye's father and mother warmly held my hands. Young Qin, we've been looking forward to meeting you. Since our daughter set the wedding date, she's been busy exercising every day, saying she wants to be the most beautiful bride. We know that you gave up your job at the grade A tertiary hospital to be with Yi Shun. Don't worry, we're family now. My friend owns a hospital that's in need of an orthopedics director. Looking at the kind, elderly couple before me, I felt a pang in my heart. During the 5 years with Wenlan, I had always hoped to meet her parents and build a complete family. But that wish ultimately became nothing but a bubble. I firmly held the hands of the elderly couple. Dad, Mom, I will definitely cherish Yi Shun. After settling down, Yi Shun and I began preparing for our wedding. At the same time, I was also submitting my resume to various hospitals, hoping to find a suitable job. Yi Shun was extremely attentive to every detail of the wedding, from venue decoration to ceremony procedures, insisting on personally confirming everything. Even for each bouquet arranged by the florist, she would readjust it if the position was slightly off. Seeing her becoming increasingly haggard for the sake of a perfect wedding, I said with concern, Don't be too tired. The wedding is meant to make us happy. Seeing you like this breaks my heart. She leaned on my shoulder and said softly, This is the only wedding I'll have in my lifetime. I want it to be perfect. Don't worry, I've saved some money over the years. Both Yi Shun and I came from small towns. Her mother abandoned her when she was young, and she lived with a father who favored boys over girls, often suffering beatings and cold. That winter, she fainted from hunger outside my family's clinic. It was my father who carried her in and cooked her a bowl of hot porridge. Looking at this child covered in injuries, my father couldn't bear to send her back to that home and arranged contact with an adoption agency through an acquaintance. During that period, she stayed at our home. We only separated when her current adoptive parents took her in. After my father passed away, she somehow got the news and immediately came to see me. She cried and said, I'm sorry, if I had found you sooner, I definitely could have helped father connect with the best specialists. It's my fault for arriving too late. It turned out that all these years, she had been searching for our whereabouts. But at that time, I was already deeply involved in my relationship with Wenlan, rarely returning home, and had no idea that Yi Shun had been looking for me all along. She single-handedly arranged all of her foster father's funeral matters, including finding a burial site and organizing the funeral service. Watching her busy figure moving back and forth, my heart was deeply touched. When she asked me with a blushing face if I would be willing to be with her, I agreed without hesitation. Perhaps it was somewhat impulsive at first, but I knew clearly that I would never find another person who truly cared for me like this. Just as I was thinking, my phone suddenly rang. It was Wenlan. I glanced at Yishun, then put the call on speakerphone. Wenlan immediately launched into questioning. Qinyan, what kind of madness is this, showing off your marriage in the hospital group chat? Are you trying to force me to clarify our relationship? Delete all that stuff right now. Or don't blame me for getting nasty. I let out a cold laugh, finally unable to contain my explosion. Wenlan, do you think the whole world revolves around you? 5 years together without even giving me an official status, and now you're here giving orders. Who do you think you are? Just a little miss born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Who I marry is none of your business. If you keep harassing me, I'll call the police. After saying this, I hung up immediately and blocked her number. Yishin stared at me blankly, seemingly never having seen me this assertive before. I explained softly. Don't worry, I usually have a very good temper. It's just that I grew up with my foster father and saw many patients being bullied, so I can be a bit tough sometimes. But with you, I will always be gentle. To be honest, even I was a bit surprised at myself. During these years by Wenlan's side, I had grown accustomed to restraint, and it had been a long time since I had expressed anger so freely. However, not long after, a message came from an unknown number. Qinyan, this is Zhang Huai. I'm giving you a final warning on behalf of President 1. You must apologize to her today, or we will take legal action against you for adultery during marriage. I frowned, not understanding what he was talking about. Immediately after, he sent a photo of a hospital benefit card. This is the special hospital benefit card President 1 gave you, with a considerable allowance. You've used quite a lot of premium medical resources, haven't you? These were all gifts based on your romantic relationship. Now that you're marrying someone else behind President 1's back, it's fraud. If you don't repay the medical expenses from these years, we will sue you for bigamy. Looking at these ridiculous threats, I couldn't help but sneer. They had no idea that 3 years ago, when hospital was embroiled in a medical malpractice dispute, it was I who went through all the case records and regulations, found evidence of the other party's false statements, and helped the hospital overcome the crisis. This kind of clumsy legal intimidation was completely ineffective against me. I called back directly. Zhang Huai, I know one. Lan is right beside you, which is perfect to clear things up. I've never used that benefits card. You can check the records. When I was with Lan, it was never for her money. Even while living in her apartment, I only used my own salary to live. Lan, after 5 years, you don't even understand my lifestyle, yet you think you bought everything from me with a card. Zhang Huai says I've been wasting my time all these years, and you just believed him? Without even checking my surgical records? Those late-night emergency rescues, those complex and difficult cases, I handled them all by myself. You think I've been working so hard to force you to marry me? I just wanted to prove that a doctor from a rural background could also establish himself in a top-tier hospital. These 5 years, I've created so many surgical records, saved so many critically ill patients. But under Zhang Huai's suppression, I couldn't even get promoted to attending physician. You always said you couldn't give me special privileges, but you never cared about the injustices I suffered. Even when my adoptive father was critically ill and needed a consultation, you believed Zhang Huai when he said I was being unreasonable, causing my adoptive father to miss the optimal treatment window. Those 3 days I spent with my adoptive father in the morgue, you didn't even ask once about it. You could easily make a phone call and mobilize the best specialists in the hospital, but you chose to turn a blind eye. Wenlan, for 5 years my feelings for you have been sincere, but you don't deserve them. From now on, you can live happily with your capable assistant Zhang Huai. Don't come disturbing my life. After saying this, I hung up immediately and blocked the number. These words had been bottled up for too long. Finally saying them out loud made me feel completely relieved. Looking back, I still feel somewhat afraid. Fortunately, I always adhered to my principles and never used any of her resources. Otherwise, these vulnerabilities could have truly harmed me. Seeing their despicable tactics, I became even more certain that leaving Wenlan was the right choice. 1 month later, Yishun and I held our wedding. The entire wedding was arranged elegantly and grandly, with guests nearly filling the entire hotel hall. It was then that I learned Yishun had been working hard in the medical device industry for years, had established her own team, and successfully developed multiple patented products. Her team focused on innovations in orthopedic surgical instruments, which perfectly complemented my professional field. Thinking about this, I couldn't help but marvel at the wonder of fate. While I was exchanging pleasantries with guests, I saw Wenlan appear at the entrance. She wore a simple black suit, looking completely different from the radiant hospital director she once was. My expression instantly darkened, but Yishin gently squeezed my hand. Don't worry, leave it to me to handle. She was always like this, giving me strength when I needed support the most. She took my arm and gracefully walked up to Wan. Director Wan, thank you for taking time from your busy schedule to attend our wedding. It's an honor to have you here. Please forgive us for any shortcomings in our hospitality. Yi Shun's voice was gentle yet poised, her every gesture exuding elegance and class. Wan Lan, whom I hadn't seen in a long time, looked completely different from the confident female CEO I remembered. Her makeup was somewhat disheveled, her eyes filled with fatigue, as if something had worn away her former sharpness. I noticed she was wearing the Cartier bracelet I had once tried every means to purchase, though now those luxury items seemed like nothing more than hollow symbols. What surprised me even more was that Jiang Huai, who used to be inseparable from her, was nowhere to be seen. Only an unfamiliar assistant followed behind her. This assistant looked nervous and timid, completely lacking Jiang Huai's arrogant demeanor. It seemed the power dynamics at the hospital had undergone tremendous changes. Wan Lan stared at me intently, taking out a check from her bag. This is my wedding gift. Her voice was somewhat hoarse, as if suppressing some emotion. I knew this might be her way of trying to make amends, but some wounds can never be healed by money. Before I could refuse, Yi Shun had already taken the check, glanced at it, and smilingly handed it back. We appreciate your gesture, Ms. Wan, but this gift is too extravagant for us to accept. Her tone was gentle yet firm, impossible to refuse. Although our company is still in its early stages, we're doing quite well. Yi Shun added, revealing confidence in the future through her words. I knew she was telling the truth. Her medical equipment development company had recently secured a substantial venture capital investment. Wan Lan's hand trembled slightly, clutching the check without speaking for a long while. Her gaze shifted between me and Yi Shun, as if searching for something, or perhaps confirming something. Finally, she looked at me and said softly, Qinyan, if this is the life you want, then I wish you happiness. Her words carried acceptance, reluctance, and most of all, regret for what had passed. Yi Shun and I exchanged smiles. Thank you for your blessing, Director Wan. We will certainly be very happy. This wasn't mere courtesy, but a promise from the heart. I knew that with Yi Shun by my side, I could complete even the most challenging surgeries, and we could overcome the most difficult moments together. Wan Lan didn't stay long, turning to leave the wedding venue. Her retreating figure seemed somewhat forlorn, completely different from the decisive hospital director I remembered. The Cr. Istal chandeliers in the banquet hall refracted brilliant light, yet it couldn't penetrate her heart. Afterward, some former colleagues from the hospital told me about recent events. After I left, Wan Lan fell ill and was hospitalized for a full 2 weeks. It was said to be an illness from overwork, but I knew there might be deeper reasons. The first thing she did after recovery was to dismiss Jiang Huai from his position. That once arrogant deputy director lost all his backing overnight. Not only that, she also spread the word in medical circles, telling major hospitals not to hire Jiang Huai. It is said that until now, he cannot even find a position as a medical intern. The person who once flaunted his power in the operating room can now only work part-time at small clinics. This is probably the irony of fate. After hearing this news, I just smiled faintly. From the day I decided to spend my life with Yi Shun, Director Wan Lan's affairs became irrelevant to me. Let the past grievances be gone with the wind. Life after marriage has been peaceful and fulfilling. Yi Shun's medical equipment company is thriving, and my surgical skills continue to improve. A year later, Yi Shun gave birth to our lovely daughter. The little one was fair and tender, with an especially sweet smile, looking just like her mother's gentle appearance. We named her Nuanyuan, meaning warm, hoping she would be like a little sun, forever warming this home. Every time I look at her sleeping face, I marvel at the wonder of life. Those things I once pursued so persistently seem insignificant in the face of her smile. That same year, I was appointed as the head of orthopedics due to several successful high-difficulty surgeries, with my annual income exceeding 1 million. This position came naturally, without any personal favors, purely based on merit. Thinking about this, I can't help but find it ironic that what I had desperately pursued at Wan Lan's hospital came so effortlessly here. Every night, our family of 3 often watches the stars in the hospital's rooftop garden. Yi Shun holds our sleeping daughter, leaning against my shoulder. The night breeze was gentle, carrying the fresh scent of medicinal herbs, while the hospital lights twinkled in the distance, yet couldn't outshine the stars above. At that moment, I finally understood, love was never a transaction, but rather the growth of 2 people together. Only with sunshine in our hearts can we illuminate each other's future. Looking back on the past, all those struggles and pain had transformed into nourishment for growth, helping us walk more steadily and further along life's path. Leaf Deep often said that meeting the right person during the best years of your life is heaven's finest arrangement, and I knew that for the rest of my